Let's revisit matters land, where the National Lands Commission Chairman, Professor Mohammed Swazuri, has this morning signed the requisite documents for the ongoing Lapsset project. Swazuri expressed optimism that despite the hiccups experienced, the project is still on course. Now, to appreciate that development, we're joined now by the Director of Lapsset, Mr. Sylvester Kasuku, who is joining us live from our city centre studios. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Kasuku. Talk to us more about this collaboration, especially between Lapsset and the National Lands Commission, and why this is important.
Thank you very much, Michelle. First and foremost, we are all aware that the National Land Commission is the agency that is in charge of management of public land. And as such, when we are, as a government agency that is undertaking monumentous investment on behalf of the government and requiring land to make sure that that is done properly, then we require the work of the National Land Commission to assist us in acquiring the land as per the law. And as such, what we did sign today was to put in place a framework that is going to guide us in the acquisition of all the lands that are required for the entire Lapsset corridor program. We know that this does involve a lot of areas in the country, beginning with the Lamu, going all the way to all the other counties like Garissa, Isiolo, Samburu, Turkana, Marsabit, Meru, all that. And we therefore signed a framework to set out mechanisms that we are going to deploy in undertaking this exercise as required by the law.
Among these frameworks is one to ensure the just compensation of project-affected persons, or what you would call PAPs in this project. How will that fast-track the compensation of these individuals?
Yes, definitely. The framework for compensation is also enshrined in the law, and it is also very clear that part of that compensation process can also include what we call relocation of the project-affected people. And we are aware that meeting what we call private interest on land, particularly those who are holding parcels maybe within the corridor, will be therefore handled through the mechanisms that are allowed for under the law. And we've already undertaken extensive profiling of all those who are affected in the corridor, save maybe for a few areas that we are going to complete as we continue with this process. So we expect this process to be quite fast-tracked, and also to make sure that it covers all the required, all the required processes, as well as all those who are affected.
All right. What then are these project-affected persons to expect, especially in the case of the need for prompt access to relevant sites where construction needs to occur, but compensation and, what would we say, evacuation is yet to have happened?
Yes. As you are aware, a lot of the areas that the project corridor is traversing are what we call unsettled, but that doesn't mean that maybe there are no interests, private interests on that land. So what is going to happen is that, as I've said, that compensation also means relocation of people. Where there are no settlements or where there are no structures that needs to be demolished, definitely will not require what we might call physical relocation, but they'll be done through what is called economic relocation. And that is also enshrined in the law.
All right, let's focus now on the update, perhaps a progress update from you on the progress so far on the implementation of the Lapsset project, and especially the challenges that have since been faced.
Absolutely. The Lapsset corridor program is currently under implementation, even though a lot of people maybe, because are not located within the corridor, still ask whether we've started or not. But I would like to state that we started long ago, And there's a lot of progress, what I would call impressive progress, to begin with the Port of Lamu, which is the area where a lot of investments are located. Currently, we are at 40% completion rate for the first 3 terminals that are under construction. And by mid this year, we are going to complete the construction of the first terminal. And all the 3 terminals will be completed by the year 2020, mid-year 2020. So people need to know, Kenyans need to know, that a lot of work is already ongoing. And when you talk about the road, the Isiolo to Moyale Road is completed. The Lokicha to Nakodok Road, linking us with South Sudan, is currently underway in terms of construction. And the Lamu-Garissa Isiolo Road is also going to be constructed in due course. And on 29th of November 2017, a project agreement was signed with the DBSA consortium of South Africa that are going to undertake the construction of this road as an investment. And we expect this to be completed by the year 2020. So a lot of mobilization is going to be undertaken. And we expect that between February and April, we will commence what we call the early works on the road, to open the road alignment, to undertake a number of construction activities to create access into the corridor. So there is a lot of progress that is being made. You are also aware that we've completed the construction of Isiolo Airport. Improvement works on Lamu Airport has also been completed. And power transmission into the corridor, particularly to Lamu Port, is completed. And we are also going to undertake provision of water in Lamu, and that's already funded by the National Treasury. So we have a lot of works that have already been undertaken, and many more are coming. And as we speak, the crude oil pipeline is already announced for bidding in terms of undertaking front-end engineering design. And we also expect that by end of this year, we should have completed all the preparatory works in terms of designs, as well as all the relevant environmental studies, among many others, including land acquisition. So it should also be ready for commencement of construction works by next year.
All right. You've cited investments such as the construction of the Isiolo Airport. Speaking of Isiolo, there had been concern that this county would be excluded, so to speak, from the Lapsset project as a result of concerns from environmentalists and wildlife concerns as to the route that the Lapsset project was to take. A possible change of route for this project would have massive ramifications. What is the state of that, that tussle so far?
What I would like to state is that sometimes maybe those who are raising concerns or making comments, maybe I may not have understood clearly what has been communicated. What has been done is that the design works were ongoing as at the time of those discussions. And of course, the Lapsset corridor was given what I would call a general orientation with regard to corridor location. Any other impacts maybe which might require to be mitigated by way of avoiding some of the specific areas have been considered, and extensive studies have been undertaken on the corridor. And as such, we wouldn't say that there is such big relocation of the route or diversion of the route to mean that the Lapsset corridor is no longer on its course. It is on course, it is on its route, and any minimum amendment, maybe in terms of route alignment, are necessary with regard to avoiding unnecessary impacts. But it is on course, it is on route, it is on alignment.
Right, this final question then. A lot has been said about the impact, the developmental impact, especially that the Lapsset project would have at 40% completion. What would you say the benefits of this project would be?
I would say that the impacts of the Lapsset corridor projects are quite interesting in that, in the first place, we are opening up over 60% of the country's land space based on the northern part of Kenya. That alone makes available 200% more space for economic development, for people to live in, and to undertake all types of investments that are known to have been undertaken, let's say, on the existing corridor between Mombasa, Nairobi, and the border with Uganda and Tanzania. So opening up this area is definitely creating jobs. A lot of jobs are being created. You talk about the new investments that are already coming up there in terms of people finding opportunities to engage in national economic activities. And we also know that these particular areas that are being opened up by the Lapsset corridor were previously not really having the opportunity to participate in national economic activities by virtue of lack of infrastructure. But today, as we continue to open up the corridor, we are making this space available. We are giving people the opportunity to exploit their potentials. We are actually priming the corridor by bringing out the potentials that are found within this corridor, so that even the people who live in the corridor and many other Kenyans and other investors from other parts of the world to come and join in undertaking developments in this corridor. And to say it in proper summary, we are undertaking what we are calling the re-engineering of the Kenyan economy. We are undertaking what we are calling magnanimous transformation of the Kenyan economy. And this is what we need to really talk about to a greater extent, so that we create greater inclusion in national economic development going forward.
All right, many thanks for speaking to us. That is Sylvester Kasuku, who is the Director General of the Lapsset project in the country, speaking to us after signing a memorandum of understanding with the National Lands Commission in frameworks, among others, that will ensure the just compensation of project-affected persons. More details on that MOU to follow.